It wasn't the kind of morning you'd expect to start a war. The sun was barely up, painting the suburb in that soft gold light that makes everything feel like it's still asleep. Our street, Maple Crest, was quiet except for the faint hum of Mr. Patel's sprinkler and the occasional bark from Mrs. Nguyen's terrier. I was in the kitchen, nursing a lukewarm coffee, scrolling through X for no reason other than to avoid my freelance coding gig. That's when the mailbox clanged. Not the usual soft click of junk mail, but a deliberate thud, like someone wanted us to hear it. I ignored it, probably another flyer for lawn services we didn't need. But then Mom, Lena, walked in, her nurse's scrubs still crisp from the iron, and said, "Mia, go check that. It's too early for the postman." I'm Mia, 24, the kind of person who'd rather debug 1,000 lines of Python than deal with neighborhood drama. I live with my parents, not because I can't afford to move out, but because rent's a scam and Dad's cooking is better than anything I'd microwave in a studio apartment. Dad, Carl, is a retired mechanic, 58, with hands like sandpaper and a laugh that shakes the walls. He's the guy who'd spend a Saturday tearing apart a carburetor just to prove he still could, then spend Sunday teaching me how to change a tire. Mom's the opposite Lena, 56, all heart but no patience for nonsense. She's the one who'd stitch you up in the ER and lecture you about not wearing a helmet in the same breath. And then there's Uncle Ray, Dad's older brother, 67, who moved in 2 years ago after Aunt Clara passed. Ray's a Vietnam vet, former electrician, with eyes that see through walls and a voice that cuts like a wire stripper. He's not loud, but when he speaks, you listen, because he's usually right. I shuffled to the mailbox in my slippers, expecting a coupon book or a political ad. Instead, I found a single envelope, no stamp, no return address, just our name, Thompson, scrawled in black ink. The paper was cheap, the kind that tears if you look at it wrong, and it smelled faintly of toner, like it was fresh off a printer. I brought it inside, tossed it on the counter, and went back to my coffee. Dad was at the stove, flipping pancakes, humming some old Springsteen tune. "What's that?" he asked, nodding at the envelope. "Dunno," I said. "Probably spam." Mom picked it up, frowned, and slit it open with a butter knife. Her face changed as she read, not angry, not scared, just confused. "Carl, you need to see this." The letter was typed, single-spaced, in a font that screamed I was designed for bad news. It read, "Dear homeowner, your fence at 142 Maple Crest violates Section 4C of the Neighborhood Enhancement Protocol. Its height, stain, and placement disrupt the aesthetic harmony of the community. Immediate removal is required by 5 p.m. Monday, or fines, liens, or legal action may be initiated. Sincerely, Civic Harmony Council." No phone number, no signature, just a P.O. box in a town I'd never heard of. Dad took one look, snorted, and said, "Aesthetic harmony? What is this, a yoga retreat?" Mom wasn't laughing. "Carl, this sounds serious." "Liens? Legal action?" Dad waved it off. "It's fake. No one's dumb enough to think offense is a crime." Uncle Ray walked in, coffee mug in hand, his flannel shirt buttoned wrong like he'd dressed in the dark. He didn't say anything, just picked up the letter, read it twice, and set it down like it was evidence in a murder trial. "Comic Sans," he said. "That's the real violation." I laughed, but Ray's eyes were sharp, scanning the paper like he was reading code. No stamp, no letterhead, no county seal. "This isn't from anyone real." He tapped the P.O. box. "Bet this leads to a strip mall or a dumpster." Mom crossed her arms. "So what? We ignore it." Ray shook his head. "You don't ignore a snake. You watch it." I should have known then that this wasn't going away. Maple Crest isn't the kind of place where people send threatening letters. It's a suburb of tidy lawns, minivans, and neighbors who wave but don't talk. Our house, a 2-story colonial with peeling paint and a garage full of Dad's tools, blends in fine. The fence, though? Dad built it himself, back when I was in middle school, after a storm took out our old chain link one. 6 feet tall, cedar-stained, sturdy enough to survive a hurricane. It wasn't just a fence, it was Dad's way of saying, "This is ours." He'd spent weeks on it, measuring every post, cursing every splinter. To him, it was a monument. To me, it was just there. Until now. I Googled Civic Harmony Council. Nothing. No website, no filings, no trace. I checked the county property records. Our fence was permitted, approved in 2010. "This is a prank," I said, closing my laptop. Ray didn't look up from his coffee. "Pranks don't smell like toner." Dad flipped another pancake, but his shoulders were tense, the kind of tense that meant he was already thinking 3 steps ahead. Mom sat at the table, rereading the letter, her fingers tapping the way they did when she was trying not to worry. "What if it's not a prank?" she said. "What if someone's trying to mess with us?" Dad turned, spatula in hand. "Then they picked the wrong house." That afternoon, I took a closer look at the envelope. The ink was smudged, like it had been handled too much. I scanned it with an app I'd built for a hackathon, basic OCR with metadata scraping. The file was clean, but the text had traces of a template, something mass-produced. I posted about it on X, half joking. Got a weird letter about my dad's fence. Fake HOA vibes. Anyone else? No replies, but a few likes from random accounts. I didn't think much of it. I should have. Because that night, as I was falling asleep, I heard the gate creak. Not loud, just enough to make me sit up. I checked the security camera feed on my phone, nothing but shadows. But the motion sensor's log showed a blip at 11:43 p.m. Something, or someone, had been there. By morning, the fence had a new decoration, a single word, comply, spray-painted in red, small enough to fit on one panel, big enough to feel like a slap. Dad was outside before breakfast, paint can in hand, covering it up. He didn't say anything, but his jaw was tight, and his knuckles were white around the brush. Mom watched from the porch, her coffee untouched. Ray stood next to her, wire cutters dangling from his belt. "They're testing us," he said. "Seeing if we'll blink." I looked at the fence, still damp with paint, and felt something shift inside me. This wasn't about a fence anymore. This was about us, and whoever was out there thought they could win. They were wrong. The next morning, the air felt heavier, like the neighborhood was holding its breath. I was up early, not by choice, but because Dad was clanging around in the garage, probably reorganizing his socket wrenches to burn off whatever was simmering in his head. The comply paint was gone, but the fence looked different now, like it was daring someone to try again. I was halfway through a bowl of cereal when the doorbell rang, sharp and insistent, like it was annoyed to be pressed. Mom, still in her scrubs from a night shift, opened the door before I could move. There stood Donna, mid-50s, yoga pants so pristine they could star in a detergent ad, holding a foil tray that smelled like betrayal disguised as dessert. Her smile was the kind you'd see on a real estate agent who knows the house has termites. "Morning, Lena." Donna chirped, her voice a half-step too bright. I heard about the little misunderstanding with the letter. I brought a peace offering. She thrust the tray forward, a cherry cobbler, still warm, with a lattice crust that looked like it was trying too hard. Mom didn't take it. "Misunderstanding," she said, crossing her arms. "You mean the fake council threatening to sue us over our fence?" Donna's smile twitched, just a flicker, like a glitch in a video game NPC. "Oh, it's not fake. The Civic Harmony Council is new, just getting started. We're here to keep things harmonious." She said harmonious like it was a prayer, and I swear I saw Mom's left eyebrow twitch. Dad poked his head out from the garage, Kolu in hand, grease smudged on his forearm. "Harmonious like spray painting my fence at midnight?" Donna's eyes widened, but she recovered fast. "Vandalism? That's awful. The council would never condone that." She set the cobbler on the porch railing, uninvited, and pulled a pamphlet from her clipboard. "This explains everything. We're just asking for cooperation." I grabbed the pamphlet before Mom could, my coder instincts itching. It was glossy but flimsy, with a logo that looked like it was stolen from a clip art site. Cooperation for what? I asked. Donna turned her smile on me, the kind that says, "Oh, you're young and naive." For the neighborhood, Mia. Standards matter. Uncle Ray appeared behind me, coffee mug steaming, his flannel now buttoned correctly, but his wire cutters still dangling from his belt like a warning. Standards like what? My brother's fence? Lena's roses? Or just your ego? Donna's smile held, but her knuckles whitened around the clipboard. The fence violates protocol. Too tall, wrong stain, blocks visual flow. Ray snorted. Visual flow? You sound like a feng shui consultant who flunked art school. Mom stepped forward, her nurse voice kicking in, the one she used on patients who lied about their symptoms. Who's paying you, Donna? Because no one in this neighborhood asked for a counsel. Donna didn't answer, just handed Mom a second envelope, thicker than the first. Fill out the compliance form. It's for your protection. She said protection like it was a favor, then turned and speed-walked to her SUV, her sneakers squeaking with every step. Mom opened the envelope. Inside was a form asking for our social security numbers, bank account details, mortgage status, and, here's the kicker, preferred contact method for urgent legal notices. I scanned the pamphlet's QR code in a sandboxed browser on my laptop. It led to a website, civic-harmony.org, with a form identical to the one in the envelope. The domain was registered 3 weeks ago to a shell company in Delaware, no physical address, just a P.O. box. This is a phishing scam, I said, showing Ray the screen. He squinted at it, then nodded. Dirty code. Bet it's logging keystrokes. Mom stared at the cobbler like it was a bomb. Why the food? Why not just send another letter? Dad, who joined us, picked up the tray and sniffed it. Smells like guilt. Or store-bought. Ray set his mug down. It's a bribe. Softens you up before they twist the knife. Mom's face hardened. I'm not eating that. And we're not filling out their form. She tossed the cobbler in the trash, tray and all, and I felt a pang of guilt for the lattice crust. But she was right. This wasn't about a fence anymore. It was about control. That afternoon, I dug deeper. The website's SSL certificate was self-signed, a rookie move for a scam. I ran a WHOS lookup, nothing but dead ends. But the form's backend was sloppy, leaking metadata that pointed to a shared server in Nevada. I posted about it on a hacker forum I lurk in, using a burner account. A user named GhostPing replied, check the source code. Look for embedded trackers. I did. Buried in the JavaScript was a snippet logging every click to an IP address tied to a strip mall 15 miles away. They're local, I told Ray. He didn't look surprised. Scammers always are. Easier to watch their marks. Mom was quieter than usual that evening, her fingers tapping the table like she was counting heartbeats. What if they keep coming, she asked. Dad put a hand on her shoulder. Then we keep pushing back. Ray, sharpening his wire cutters with a whetstone, added, they don't expect us to push. That's their mistake. I looked at the fence through the kitchen window, its cedar planks glowing in the dusk. It wasn't just wood anymore. It was a line in the sand, and we were on one side, with Donna and her fake counsel on the other. I didn't know how deep this went, but I knew one thing. We weren't blinking first. Wednesday morning broke with a chill, the kind that sneaks under your skin and makes you check the locks twice. I was up late, combing through the website's source code, chasing dead-end IP addresses that looped back to nowhere. The kitchen smelled of burnt toast, Dad's attempt at breakfast while Mom slept off her night shift. I was about to tell him about the strip mall lead when the doorbell rang, not Donna's polite chime, but a hard, impatient buzz. Dad wiped his hands on a dish towel, muttering, if that's her again, she's getting a lecture on trespassing. But it wasn't Donna. It was worse. I peeked through the living room blinds. 3 guys stood at the edge of our driveway, dressed like they'd raided a surplus store. Cargo vests, clean boots, fake badges clipped to their belts, the kind you'd buy at a costume shop. The leader, vest guy, held a clipboard, his jaw set like he was auditioning for a cop drama. The other two, Buzzcut and Hoodie, flanked him, hands twitching near their belts. "Mr. Carl Thompson?" Vest Guy called, loud enough for the neighbors to hear. Dad was already outside, Kolu in hand, fixing a loose hinge on the gate. He didn't look up. "Who's asking?" Vest Guy stepped forward, boots crunching on the gravel. "Civic Harmony Council. We're here to inspect the fence for compliance." Dad stood, Kolu dangling like an extension of his arm. "Inspect my property? You got a warrant." Vest Guy hesitated, then tried again. "This is standard procedure. Noncompliance escalates to fines." Dad's eyes narrowed. "Escalate this. Get off my lawn." Buzzcut shifted, his hand brushing something under his vest. That's when Uncle Ray appeared on the porch, coffee mug in one hand, wire cutters in the other, his flannel shirt untucked like he'd rolled out of bed ready for a fight. "Morning, fellas," Ray said, voice low but sharp. "You got names? Badges? Or just bad ideas?" The air froze. Hoodie's eyes flicked to Vest Guy, waiting for a signal. Vest Guy forced a smile. "We're authorized by the council. This is a courtesy inspection." Ray took a sip of coffee, slow, deliberate. "Courtesy's knocking. You're trespassing." Dad stepped closer, Kolu swinging lightly. "Authorized by who? Donna? Or the P.O. box she wrote in on?" Vest Guy's clipboard twitched. "Section 4C gives us right of entry." Ray laughed, a short, dry bark. "Section 4CS, as real as your badges." I checked the county code. "You're impersonating officials. That's a felony in this state." Buzzcut cracked his knuckles, but Hoodie looked nervous, his eyes darting to the street. I was watching from the window, phone recording, heart pounding. This wasn't a prank anymore. These guys were here to push. Vest Guy tried one last time. "We'll report this non-compliance. You'll hear from us." Dad leaned in, voice low. "Good. Make sure you spell my name right. Thompson. Now walk." They backed off, slow, like they were memorizing the house. Hoodie tripped over a sprinkler head, cursing under his breath. Ray watched them go, his wire cutters glinting in the morning light. "They'll be back," he said, not to anyone in particular. Dad nodded, Kolu still in hand. "Let them try." Inside, Mom was awake, her face pale from exhaustion and worry. "Who were they?" she asked, pouring coffee with shaky hands. "Thugs," Ray said, setting his mug down. "Hired to scare us." I showed them the video on my phone. They took photos of the fence, the mailbox, even the car. "Look at their boots, too clean for contractors." Dad's jaw tightened. "They're scouting." Mom's voice cracked. "Scouting for what?" "It's just a fence." Ray looked at her, his eyes soft but unyielding. "It's never just a fence, Lena. It's a door. They're trying to open it." That afternoon, we rigged the yard. Ray's idea, but Dad took charge, hauling out his toolbox like he was arming for battle. We installed 2 motion sensors along the fence, wired to a battery-powered alarm in the garage. I repositioned our security cameras, one on the porch, one by the gate, for wider angles. Dad tested the floodlight, making it flicker like a strobe. "If they come back," he said, "they're getting a light show." Mom hovered nearby, her arms crossed. "This is our home, Carl. Not a fortress." Dad paused, his hand on a sensor. "It's both now." Ray, testing the alarm with a stick, added, "Better a fortress than a target." I spent the evening digging into the strip mall lead. The IP address tied to a defunct business, Harmony Solutions LLC, dissolved last month. I found a Reddit thread about a similar scam in a town 50 miles away, fake HOA letters, demands for personal info, then threats of foreclosure. One user claimed their grandma lost her house to a forged title transfer. "This is bigger than Donna," I said, showing Ray the thread. He nodded, his wire cutters now tucked in his pocket. "It's a machine. Donna's just a cog." Mom overheard, her voice sharp. "Then we break the machine." I looked at her, surprised. She wasn't scared anymore. She was angry. That night, I couldn't sleep. The fence loomed outside my window, its shadow stretching across the lawn like a warning. I checked the camera feed, nothing but crickets. But the motion sensor log showed a blip at 2:17 a.m., too brief to trigger the alarm. I didn't wake Dad. I didn't need to. He was already in the garage, Kolu on the bench, staring at the fence like it was an old friend about to betray him. Thursday morning, the house felt like a pressure cooker. Mom was off work, but she didn't sit still, scrubbing counters, folding laundry, anything to keep her hands busy. Dad was in the garage, testing the motion sensors with a broom, muttering about amateurs who don't know a torque wrench from a toothpick. Ray was quieter, sitting on the porch with his coffee, wire cutters now a permanent fixture on his belt. I was glued to my laptop, chasing the strip mall IP address, but it kept bouncing through proxy servers, a digital wild goose chase. The fence stood silent outside, but it felt like a magnet, pulling trouble our way. Around noon, Dad called me outside. "Mia, check the fence line. Something's off." I followed him to the side gate, where the cedar planks met the neighbor's hedge. He pointed to a post, his finger hovering over a small black disc, no bigger than a bottle cap, taped to the wood. "What's that?" he asked. I peeled it off, careful not to smudge it. It was warm, humming faintly, with a tiny red LED blinking like a heartbeat. "Listening device," I said, my stomach twisting. Ray joined us, his eyes narrowing. "Low range. They're within a block." He took it from me, turned it over, and popped the casing with his wire cutters. Inside, a cheap circuit board and a mic, nothing fancy but enough to catch porch conversations. Mom was in the kitchen when we brought it inside. She froze, a dish towel in her hands. "A bug?" "In our yard." Her voice was steady, but her eyes weren't. "Who's doing this, Carl?" "Why?" Dad set the device on the table, his jaw tight. "Scammers. They want something." Mom's towel twisted in her fists. "What? Our house? Our money? What's worth this?" Ray sat down, his wire cutters clicking softly. "It's not about what. It's about who. They pick people they think won't fight back." Mom's face crumpled, not in tears, but in something worse, fear mixed with fury. "We're not helpless," she said, but it sounded like she was convincing herself. I ran a scan on the device, literalized it to a burner laptop, cross-referencing its signal. The bug was pinging a local network, not a cloud server, meaning whoever was listening was close. Maybe a van, maybe a house. The signal cut off after I disconnected the battery, but the logs showed it had been active for at least 12 hours. "They heard everything," I said. "Us talking, Dad cursing, everything." Ray nodded. "Good. Let them know we're not scared." But Mom wasn't comforted. She paced the kitchen, her sneakers squeaking on the linoleum. "This is our home, Carl. Our home. And they're listening to us like we're criminals." Dad put a hand on her shoulder, but she shrugged it off. "Don't touch me. I'm fine." She wasn't. That afternoon, I posted about the bug on X, keeping it vague, found a weird device on our property. "Anyone know what this is?" A few replies came in, mostly tinfoil hat types ranting about government surveillance. But one user, Shadowbite, DM'd me, "That's a cheap audio bug. Check your Wi-Fi for rogue devices. Scammers use them to case targets." I scanned our network. 2 unknown devices were piggybacking, logging traffic. I blocked them, but the damage was done. "They've been watching us," I told Dad. He didn't say anything, just grabbed a flashlight and checked the fence again, like he could find answers in the wood grain. Mom's fear started to crack the family's rhythm. She snapped at Dad for leaving dishes in the sink, at me for always being on that damn laptop. At dinner, she barely ate, pushing her pasta around like it had personally offended her. "What if they come back?" she asked, her voice small. Ray looked up from his plate. "Then we're ready." But Mom shook her head. "Ready for what? A fight? This isn't a war, Ray." His eyes softened, but his voice didn't. "It is now, Lena." They made it one. That night, I couldn't sleep. Mom's pacing kept me up, her footsteps a metronome of worry. I checked the cameras, nothing. But the fence loomed outside, its shadow stretching across my room like a warning. I thought about Mom, her hands trembling as she scrubbed the counters, her eyes darting to the windows. She wasn't just scared for herself. She was scared for us, Dad's stubborn pride, Ray's quiet menace, my reckless curiosity. I wanted to tell her we'd be okay, but the bug on the table said otherwise. We weren't just fighting a fake council. We were fighting something bigger, something that knew our names and wasn't afraid to listen. Friday morning, the house was a minefield. Mom was in the living room, folding towels with the intensity of someone defusing a bomb. Dad was in the garage, testing the floodlight's trigger sensitivity, cursing when it flickered too soon. Ray sat on the porch, sharpening his wire cutters like he was preparing for a duel. I was on my laptop, chasing the bug signal, but it was a dead end. Whoever was listening had gone dark. The fence stood outside, silent but heavy, like it was waiting for the next punch. Around 10 a.m., the doorbell rang, and I braced for Donna's fake smile. Instead, it was a new envelope, taped to the door, no stamp, just our address in block letters. I brought it inside, my hands cold. Mom opened it, her fingers steady now, like she'd burned through her fear and found steel underneath. The letter was a gut punch, foreclosure advisory. Unresolved violations at 142 Maple Crest have resulted in liens totaling $12,000. Failure to comply by Monday may lead to property seizure. Contact the Civic Harmony Council to resolve. It listed a fake court date, a non-existent judge, and a phone number that went straight to a generic voicemail. Mom's voice was low, dangerous. They're trying to take our house. Dad stormed in, Kolu in hand. Let them try. I'll bury them in the backyard first. Ray didn't laugh. They're not playing, Carl. This is how they win, scare you into signing something. I scanned the letter. The metadata was sloppy, created on a cracked office suite, edited by Decompliance. The file name? Thompson_escalation_V2. It's Donna, I said, showing Ray the screen. He nodded. She's the face. Someone else is the brain. Mom slammed the letter on the table. Then we find the brain and cut it off. I'd never heard her like that, her nurse's calm replaced by a fury that made the room feel small. Dad put a hand on her shoulder, and this time, she didn't pull away. We're not losing this house, Lena. Not to these clowns. That afternoon, we called a neighborhood meeting, not at the community center, too exposed, but in our garage. Ray set up folding chairs. Dad dragged out a whiteboard and Mom baked cookies, not because she felt like it, but because she knew food would draw a crowd. 15 neighbors showed up, mostly retirees, their faces a mix of curiosity and worry. Mrs. Gwynn, 78, clutched a letter about her non-compliant mailbox. Mr. Patel, 65, waved one about his porch light. They said I owe $800, he said, his voice shaking. I paid it. They wanted more. The room buzzed, anger rising like heat. I showed them the foreclosure letter, the bug, the website's phishing form. This isn't about fences or mailboxes, I said. They're stealing your homes. Mrs. Gwynn stood, her tiny frame trembling. They called me last month. Said my mailbox was unsafe. I told them it's been there 20 years. They sent a man to measure it. He took pictures of my windows. Her voice cracked, and Mom hugged her, whispering something I couldn't hear. Mr. Patel added, they asked for my bank details. I didn't give them. Now this. He held up his letter, identical to ours. The garage felt like a powder keg. Ray stepped forward, wire cutters glinting. They're a machine. Fake letters, fake fines, fake foreclosures. They push until you break. Mrs. Nguyen's eyes hardened. I'm not breaking. We made a plan. Collect every letter, document every call, check every mailbox. I set up a group chat for updates, encrypted to keep the scammers out. Dad wrote "fight back" on the whiteboard, his handwriting sharp as a blade. Mom passed out cookies, her hands steady now, like she'd found her fight. But as the neighbors left, Mrs. Nguyen pulled me aside. "Mia, be careful. They know your name." Her words hit like a slap. I nodded, but my stomach twisted. They didn't just know our name. They knew our lives. That night, Mom didn't pace. She sat at the kitchen table, writing a list of every neighbor who'd been targeted. Dad cleaned his kolu, the metal gleaming under the light. Ray stared at the fence, his coffee cold. I checked the cameras, nothing. But the group chat was alive, neighbors reporting new letters, new calls. The machine was moving, and we were in its sights. I looked at Mom, her pen scratching the paper, and realized she wasn't just fighting for us. She was fighting for Mrs. Nguyen, Mr. Patel, everyone. And that made her unstoppable. Saturday morning, the house was a fortress in progress. Dad was outside, reinforcing the gate with a steel bar, his kolu a blur of motion. Mom was on the phone, coordinating with neighbors, her voice clipped and commanding. Ray was in the living room, sketching a map of the neighborhood, marking every house hit by the fake council. I was on my laptop, diving into the dark corners of the internet, chasing the bug's signal. The fence stood tall, but it felt like a target now, every plank a challenge to whoever was watching. The group chat buzzed. Mrs. Nguyen found a new letter. Mr. Patel got a threatening voicemail. The machine was accelerating. I'd been poking at the website source code when I found a hidden link, buried in a comment tag, a URL to a private forum, invite only, no public trace. I used a burner account to slip in, spoofing my IP through a VPN. The forum was a goldmine, a digital war room for the scam. Threads titled Target Acquisition, Compliance Escalation, Asset Seizure Protocols. One post listed our address. Thompson, Carl. Resistant. Possible veteran in household. Tech-savvy daughter. Escalate pressure. Others named Mrs. Nguyen. Low resistance, isolated. Mr. Patel. Health issues, exploitable. My hands shook as I saved screenshots, every word a knife to the gut. I showed Ray the forum. He read it slowly, his wire cutters idle for once. "This isn't new," he said, his voice distant. "I've seen this before." I blinked. "What?" He leaned back, his eyes tracing the ceiling like it held answers. 72, Saigon. Black market ring targeting GIs. Fake MPs, fake fines, fake arrests. They'd shake you down for cash, papers, anything. If you fought back, they'd frame you. Drugs, theft, worse. His voice was steady, but his hands clenched. We shut it down. Cost me a friend. He didn't elaborate, and I didn't ask. But the weight of his words settled in. This wasn't just a scam. It was a war, and Ray had fought it before. Mom overheard, her phone still in hand. "You're saying this is military grade?" Ray shook his head. "Not military. Parasites. They use the same playbook, fear, confusion, pressure." Dad walked in, sweat on his brow. "Then we hit back harder." Mom nodded, her list of targeted neighbors now 2 pages long. "We need more than screenshots, Mia. We need names." I kept digging. The forum's admin was Decompliance Donna, no doubt. But the mods were ghosts, using handles like Overwatch and Clean Sweep. I traced Overwatch's posts to an IP in Nevada, same as the bug's signal. "They're centralized," I said. "One hub, multiple fronts." That afternoon, Ray took me to the backyard, away from the house. "If they're watching, they're not here," he said, nodding at the fence. He handed me a burner phone, no apps, just a number programmed in. "Old friend. If things go south, call him. Don't ask his name." I stared at the phone, its weight heavy in my hand. "South like what?" Ray's eyes were steel. "Like they stop sending letters and start sending men." My throat tightened. I'd been treating this like a puzzle, a coding challenge. But Ray saw it for what it was, a fight with no rules. Mom's anger was a quiet fire now. She spent the evening calling neighbors, her nurses calm back in place, but her words sharp. "Check your mailboxes. Save every letter. Don't answer unknown numbers. Mrs. Nguyen called back, her voice trembling. They left a note on my car. Said I'm non-compliant. What do I do? Mom didn't hesitate. Come over tomorrow. We're in this together. Dad watched her, pride in his eyes. That's my Lena, he said, Kolu on the table. But I saw Mom's hands shake when she hung up, just for a second. She was strong, but she was human. That night, I couldn't stop reading the forum. Every post was a threat, every target a neighbor. I thought about Ray's story, his friend lost to a scam like this. I thought about Mom, fighting for strangers. I thought about Dad, his Kolu, a symbol of defiance. The fence was more than wood now. It was us, stubborn, unyielding, ready. But as I checked the cameras, a shadow moved near the gate, too quick to catch. I didn't sleep. Neither did Ray. He sat on the porch, wire cutters in hand, watching the dark like it owed him answers. Sunday was a war zone in waiting. Dad was up at dawn, rigging the fence with new traps, fishing line tied to tin cans, hidden in the mulch, ready to scream if stepped on. Ray calibrated the motion sensors, setting them to trigger at the slightest vibration. Mom printed flyers for the neighbors, each one a warning. Beware the Civic Harmony Council. Save every letter. Trust no one. I coated a decoy folder with UV powder, the kind that glows under infrared, and left it on the porch, bait for whoever was dumb enough to bite. The fence Whipple fence stood like a challenge, its cedar planks a dare to the world. I was on my laptop, monitoring the forum. The admin, Decompliance, had posted a new thread, Maple Crest Escalation Plan. It listed our house as Priority 1, Non-Compliant, Armed Resident, Tech Risk. Mrs. Nguyen was Priority 3, Isolated, Low Resistance. Mr. Patel was Priority 4, Health Concerns. Every name was a neighbor, every post a threat. I saved it all, my fingers flying. The fence wasn't the target. We were. Mom was a general now, organizing the neighbors via group chat. Check your Wi-Fi, she texted. Look for rogue devices. Dad tested the floodlight, its beam cutting through the morning haze. Ray wired a speaker to the alarm, programmed to blare, "Smile, you're on camera," if triggered. Let them know we're watching, he said, his wire cutters glinting. I felt a surge of pride, but Mom's eyes were haunted, her hands busy, but her mind elsewhere. What if they hurt someone, she asked, folding flyers. Dad didn't look up. They won't get the chance. That night, at 2:13 a.m., the alarm screamed. My phone lit up, Zone 2, side gate. The cameras caught vest guy in hoodie, creeping along the fence, hoodie clutching a crowbar. They didn't see the UV trap. When vest guy grabbed the decoy folder, his gloves glowed like a rave under the infrared feed. Hoodie tried the gate. The floodlight roared on, and Ray's speaker blared, "Smile, you're on camera." The tin cans rattled, a metallic shriek. Hoodie cursed, tripping over the fishing line. Vest guy bolted, the folder in hand. We got their faces, vest guy's jaw tight, Hoodie's eyes wide with panic. Mom was up, her robe tight around her. "They're here," she whispered, her voice a mix of fear and fury. Dad grabbed his Kolu, his knuckles white. Ray checked the feed, his wire cutters still. "They're sloppy," he said. "Amateurs." But I saw Mom's hands shake, her nurse's calm cracking. She wasn't scared for herself. She was scared for us, Dad's defiance, Ray's menace, my recklessness. I wanted to hug her, but the cameras were still rolling, and the fence was still standing. The group chat exploded, neighbors awake, reporting shadows, noises. Mrs. Nguyen texted, "Heard something by my mailbox." Scared. Mom replied, "Stay inside. We're handling it." Dad checked the fence, Kolu in hand, his shadow long and sharp. Ray reset the sensors, his eyes scanning the dark. I uploaded the footage to a cloud server, time-stamped, untouchable. The UV powder was our ace, proof they'd touched our property. But as I watched the feed, a new shadow moved near the gate, too quick to catch. The fence wasn't just a barrier now. It was a battlefield, and we were the soldiers. Monday morning, the house was a command center. Mom was on the phone, updating neighbors, her voice sharp as a scalpel. Dad was outside, checking the Tinkin traps, his cola tucked in his belt. Ray was at the kitchen table, sketching the strip mall's layout from memory, his wire cutters beside him. I was on my laptop, analyzing the UV footage. Vest Guy's face was clear, his jaw clenched like he knew he'd screwed up. Hoodie's panic was almost comical, his eyes darting like a trapped animal. The decoy folder was gone, but the UV powder was our win evidence that glowed like a confession. The group chat was a firestorm. Mrs. Gwynn sent a photo of a new letter on her mailbox. Final warning, comply or lose everything. Mr. Patel reported a voicemail. Pay $1,000 or we take your house. Mom's flyers were working, neighbors were awake, angry, ready to fight. But Mom's eyes were hollow, her hands folding flyers with mechanical precision. They're not stopping, she said, her voice low. Dad nodded, Kolu gleaming. Neither are we. Ray looked up from his sketch. We need to hit their base. The strip mall. I'd traced the UV folder's micro-tracker to a strip mall 15 miles away, a rundown plaza with a nail salon, a vape shop, and an unmarked office. The tracker pinged until 3 a.m., then went dead, probably found and smashed. I showed Ray the coordinates. That's their hub, he said, circling it on his map. Sloppy security, no cameras. Dad cracked his knuckles. Then we go. Mom's head snapped up. Go? Are you insane? That's their territory. Dad's eyes were steel. And this is ours. Ray called in a favor, an old buddy from 73, a grizzled PI named Vince. He owes me, Ray said, handing me his burner phone. Vince met us at a diner, his face like weathered leather, his eyes scanning the room. Strip mall's a front, he said, sipping black coffee. Unmarked office, no sign, no mail. I saw your guys, vest guy, hoodie, and a new one. Gray suit, slick, calls the shots. I showed him the footage. Vince nodded. Pros. Not muscle, brains. Dad leaned in. Can you tail them? Vince grinned. For Ray? I'd tail the devil. That afternoon, Vince tailed the strip mall. His photos came at dusk, vest guy and hoodie unloading boxes into a van, gray suit watching, his suit crisp despite the heat. The office was empty inside, but Vince found a shredder, half full of torn papers. He grabbed what he could, fragments of letters, lists, our address circled in red. They're moving, Vince texted. Fast. I uploaded the photos to the group chat, timestamped, public. Neighbors shared them, anger spreading like wildfire. Mrs. Gwynn called. That's the man who measured my mailbox. Mr. Patel added, he came to my house last week. Mom's fury was a quiet storm. She sorted Vince's fragments, piecing them together like a puzzle. They're targeting the whole street, she said, her voice shaking. Dad cleaned his Kolu, the metal a mirror for his resolve. Ray studied the photos, his wire cutters still. Gray suit's the key, he said. Find him, we find the brain. I felt a chill, not from fear, but from clarity. The fence wasn't the fight. It was the spark. The real battle was for Maple Crest, and we were all in. That night, Dad told a story over dinner, his voice low. Met a guy at the Union Hall once. Said his mom lost her house to a scam like this. Fake fines, fake lawyers, gone in a month. Mom's fork stopped midair. Why didn't he fight? Dad shrugged. Didn't know how. Ray looked up. We do. The fence glowed outside, its shadow a reminder. We weren't just fighting for us. We were fighting for everyone who didn't know how. And we were winning. Tuesday morning, the air was thick with tension. Mom was in the kitchen, printing more flyers, her hands steady but her eyes distant. Dad was outside, checking the fence for new damage, his Kolu a constant companion. Ray was on the porch, sketching Gray suit's face from Vince's photos, his wire cutters a silent threat. I was on my laptop, uploading Vince's shredder fragments to civicfraudexposed.net, a site I'd built overnight, no ads, just truth. The group chat was a war drum, neighbors sharing photos, letters, voicemails. Mrs. Gwynn posted, "Found another bug by my roses." Mr. Patel texted, "They called again. Want my Medicare number?" The machine was relentless, but so were we. Around noon, the doorbell rang, soft, almost polite. I checked the camera, gray suit, alone, no clipboard, just a smile like he was selling life insurance. His suit was crisp, gray as a storm cloud, his glasses glinting in the sun. Dad opened the door, Kolu in his belt, his stance wide. "Who are you?" Gray suit's smile didn't waver. "Mia, Carl, Lena, Ray," he said, naming us like we were family. "You've been busy." Mom stepped beside Dad, her arms crossed. "Not as busy as you, breaking into our yard." Gray suit chuckled, low and smooth. "Let's not get dramatic. I'm here to clean up Donna's mess." Ray joined us, wire cutters in hand, his eyes locked on Gray suit. "Mess? You sent thugs to our house." Gray suit shrugged. "Overzealous contractors." "I've handled it." Dad's knuckles whitened. "Handled it?" "They tried to steal from us." Gray suit's smile sharpened. "You're loud, Carl. That's dangerous. Let's find a middle ground." He slid a card under the door, blank, just a phone number. "Call me. We can make this go away." Ray picked it up, tore it in half. "Middle ground's for cowards. Get off my brother's porch." Gray suit didn't flinch. "You're on a list now. All of you. Think about that." His voice was calm, but it carried weight, like a blade hidden in silk. Mom's eyes narrowed. "A list? Like the one on your forum?" "We've seen it." Gray suit's smile flickered, just for a second. "Impressive. But lists are cheap. Consequences aren't." He turned, his sedan, no plates, waiting down the street. Dad watched him go, Kolu in hand. "He's the brain," he said. Ray nodded. "And he's scared." Inside, Mom was a storm. "He knows our names, Carl. Our lives." Her voice shook, but her hands were steady, folding flyers like weapons. I showed them the site Civic Fraud Exposed. Net was live, with Vince's photos, the forum screenshots, the UV footage. "We're public now," I said. "They can't hide." Dad's eyes gleamed. "Good. Let them squirm." But Mom's fear lingered, her hands pausing over a flyer. "What if he's right? What if there are consequences?" Ray's voice was steel. "There always are. We're ready." That afternoon, I hacked Gray Suit's sedan's Wi-Fi, another rookie move, left unsecured. The logs showed it pinging the strip mall server, confirming his role. I posted the data online, tagged #CivicScam. The neighbors amplified it. Mrs. Gwynn shared it on her TikTok. Mr. Patel emailed it to his lawyer. Mom's flyer spread, hand-delivered by her and Mrs. Gwynn, who'd become her shadow. But as night fell, Mom's resolve wavered. She sat at the table, staring at the torn card. "He's not Donna," she said. "He's worse." Dad nodded, Kolu on the table. "And we're better." Ray told a story that night, his voice low. 74, after Saigon. Caught a guy running a scam on widows. Fake pensions, fake promises. We trapped him, turned him over. He had a list too. Never saw him again. Mom's eyes widened. "What happened?" Ray shrugged. "Justice. Or something like it." The fence glowed outside, its shadow a shield. Gray Suit's list was real, but so was our fight. And we were writing the ending. Wednesday morning, the house was a battlefield. Mom was printing flyers, her hands a blur, her eyes burning with purpose. Dad was outside, reinforcing the fence with steel brackets, his Kolu a constant shadow. Ray was at the kitchen table, studying Gray Suit's torn card, his wire cutters a silent vow. I was on my laptop, monitoring Civic Fraud Exposed. Net 10,000 hits and climbing, #CivicScam trending locally. The group chat was a wildfire, neighbors sharing new threats, new bugs. Mrs. Nguyen found a device in her mailbox. Mr. Patel got a letter demanding his social security number. The machine was desperate, and we were its reckoning. At noon, an email hit my inbox from a burner account. Subject: You're listed. Inside, a PDF, 47 names. Ours at the top: Thompson, Carl. Stubborn. Veteran in household. Tech risk. Mrs. Nguyen was isolated, exploitable. Mr. Patel was health issues, high-value asset. Every name was a neighbor, every line a threat. I showed Mom. Her face went white, then red. They're targeting everyone, she said, her voice a blade. Dad slammed his Kolu on the table. Then we burn their list. Ray nodded, wire cutters glinting. We burn their world. Mom took charge, her nurses calm, now a general's resolve. We go public, she said. Every neighbor, every platform. I uploaded the list to the site, timestamped, public. Dad wrote a manifesto for the flyers. They want your home. We want justice. Ray sketched a plan, share the list with the news, the feds, anyone who'd listen. But Mom's eyes were haunted, her hands trembling as she printed. What if they come for us? She asked. Dad's voice was steel. Let them. We're ready. I hacked the forum again, finding a new thread, Maple Crest Containment. It called us hostile, our site a liability. Decompliance. Donna was silent, but Overwatch posted, neutralize tech risk. Priority 1. That was me. My heart raced, but I saved it all, my fingers steady. The fence was our shield, but the list was our sword. I posted it on X, tagged every local reporter. Mrs. Nguyen shared it on TikTok, her voice shaking but strong. Mr. Patel emailed it to his lawyer, who called back, this is wire fraud. Federal level. That afternoon, Mom and Mrs. Nguyen delivered flyers door to door, their steps defiant. Dad checked the traps, his Kolu a warning. Ray called his burner phone contact, speaking in code, checkpoint Charlie's active. Deliver the package. I didn't ask who it was. I didn't need to. The site crashed from traffic, but I re-uploaded it on a mirror server. Hashtag civic scam hit national trends. A news van parked outside, a reporter knocking. Mom answered, her voice clear, they're stealing our homes. We're stopping them. But Mom's fear lingered. She sat at night, the list on the table, her eyes distant. They know us, Mia. Our lives. I touched her hand. And we know them. We're winning. Dad cleaned his Kolu, the metal a mirror for his resolve. Ray stared at the fence, his wire cutters still. The list was a weapon, but so were we. And as the cameras rolled, the fence stood tall, a monument to our fight. We weren't just listed. We were legends. Thursday was the day the neighborhood fought back. The garage was packed, 20 neighbors in folding chairs, their faces a mix of fear and fury. Mom had set out cookies and coffee, her nurses touch a lure for the crowd. Dad stood by the whiteboard, Kolu in his belt, fight back scrawled in red. Ray was at the door, wire cutters in hand, scanning for intruders. I was at a projector, civic fraud exposed, net loaded, ready to expose the machine. The fence loomed outside, its shadow a rallying cry. The group chat was electric. Mrs. Nguyen posted, here and angry. Mr. Patel texted, ready to end this. Mom opened the meeting, her voice a blade. They're stealing our homes. Fake letters, fake fines, fake foreclosures. We have proof. I clicked the projector, slide 1, Vest guy sprinting across our lawn, UV powder glowing. Slide 2, hoodie grabbing the decoy folder, his gloves neon under infrared. Slide 3, the list, our names at the top. The room gasped, then roared. Mrs. Nguyen stood, her voice trembling. They threatened my mailbox. My home. Mr. Patel waved his letter. They wanted $1,000. I paid $800. The garage was a volcano, ready to erupt. Donna arrived mid-meeting, her yoga pants pristine, her clipboard a shield. This is a misunderstanding, she said, her smile cracking. Dad stepped forward, cola gleaming. Misunderstanding? You sent thugs to my house. Mom held up the list. Your forum, Donna. Your scam. Donna's face went flat. That's fabricated, she said, but her voice shook. I clicked again. Slide 4. The forum thread. Compliance posts highlighted. Fabricated like your letters? I snapped. We have metadata. Your printer's serial number. The neighbors exploded. Mrs. Nguyen shouted, You came to my house. Mr. Patel yelled, You called me non-compliant. A woman in the back, Mrs. Lopez, stood. You asked for my Medicare number at bridge night. The room was chaos, flyers waving like battle flags. Donna's clipboard fell, her smile gone. This is an ambush, she stammered. Ray stepped forward, wire cutters glinting. No, Donna. It's justice. She ran, shoving past Mrs. Nguyen, her sneakers squeaking. The garage roared, a chorus of defiance. But as Donna fled, Gray Suit appeared, calm, his suit crisp. He nodded at her, then walked toward me, his glasses glinting. Impressive, he said, his voice smooth. But you've only seen the surface. Dad's Koolu twitched. Surface? We've got your list, your forum, your thugs. Gray Suit smiled. And I've got more. Call me. He left, his sedan waiting. Mom's eyes burned, her hands clenched. He's the brain, she said. Ray nodded. And we're the heart. The fence stood tall, a monument to our victory. Donna was broken, but Gray Suit was still out there, and the fight wasn't over. Friday morning, the house was a fortress under siege. Mom was in the living room, sorting neighbor letters, her hands a blur of fury. Dad was outside, checking the fence's steel brackets, his Koolu a silent vow. Ray was at the kitchen table, studying Gray Suit's sketch, his wire cutters a constant threat. I was on my laptop, monitoring Civic Fraud Exposed, net 50,000 hits, hashtag Civic Scam trending nationally. The group chat was a war cry. Mrs. Nguyen posted, New letter on my door. Mr. Patel texted, They called again. Want my bank details? The machine was panicking, and we were their nightmare. At 8 a.m., a new letter was taped to the fence, no envelope, just folded once. Foreclosure notice, $15,000 in liens. Comply by Monday or lose your property. It listed a fake judge, a non-existent court. Mom found it, her face a mask of rage. They're desperate, she said, slamming it on the table. Dad's cola gleamed. Good. Desperate means sloppy. Ray nodded, wire cutters still. Sloppy means we win. But Mom's eyes were haunted, her hands trembling as she sorted letters. What if they take it all, she whispered. Dad's voice was steel. They won't. We're too loud. Ray made a call on his burner phone, his voice low. Checkpoint Charlie's ready. Send the package. 3 hours later, a lawyer arrived. Federal, no nonsense, her suit sharp as a blade. I'm Agent Torres, she said, shaking Mom's hand. Your site's a goldmine. Wire fraud, elder abuse, RICO violations. Dad's eyes widened. RICO? Like the mob? Torres nodded. Exactly. This is organized crime. Mom's hands steadied, her nurse's calm back. Can you stop them? Torres smiled. With your evidence? We'll bury them. I showed Torres the site, UV footage, forum screenshots, the list, Vince's shredder fragments. Her eyes gleamed. This is enough for warrants. Multiple states. Dad's Koolu rested on the table, a symbol of defiance. Ray's wire cutters were silent, but his sketch of Gray Suit was complete, every detail sharp. Mom handed Torres the neighbor letters, her voice clear. This isn't just us. It's everyone. Torres nodded. I know. We're moving fast. That afternoon, Mom broke. She sat at the table, the foreclosure letter in hand, her eyes wet. I can't lose this house, Carl. Our life. Dad knelt beside her, Koolu forgotten. We won't, Lena. I swear. I touched her shoulder, my voice soft. We're winning, Mom. The feds are with us. Ray looked up, wire cutters glinting. And we're not alone. The group chat buzzed, neighbors rallying, sharing Torres's contact. Mrs. Nguyen texted, told her everything. Mr. Patel posted, sent my voicemail. The fence stood tall, a monument to our fight. Mom wiped her eyes, her resolve back. Then we finished this. That night, Torres called. Warrants issued. Raids tomorrow. Mom's eyes burned, her hands steady. Dad cleaned his kolu, the metal a mirror for his pride. Ray stared at the fence, his wire cutters a vow. The foreclosure letter was a lie, but our fight was truth. And as the cameras rolled, the fence glowed, a beacon of resistance. We weren't just fighting, we were rewriting the story. Saturday was the day the machine fell. The house was a victory lap, Mom sorting flyers, her hands steady, her eyes bright. Dad was outside, polishing the fence's steel brackets, his Kaulua trophy. Ray was at the table, sketching the strip mall's raid, his wire cutters a relic of war. I was on my laptop, watching Civic Fraud Exposed, net, 100,000 hits, #CivicScam on every news channel. The group chat was a celebration. Mrs. Nguyen posted, feds at the strip mall. Mr. Patel texted, Donna's arrested. The machine was crumbling, and we were the hammer. At 7 a.m., Torres called. Raids hit 3 offices. Donna's in custody, singing like a canary. Mom's eyes gleamed. What about Gray Suit? Torres's voice was sharp. Picked up in Nevada. Quietly, but not secretly. Your sight made him a star. Dad's cola gleamed, his laugh shaking the walls. Star of a cell block. Ray nodded, wire cutters still. Justice, he said, his voice heavy with Saigon's ghosts. I uploaded Torres's update to the site, timestamped, public. Neighbors shared it. Mrs. Nguyen's TikTok hit 80,000 views. Mr. Patel's lawyer filed a class action suit. Mom was a queen, her nurse's calm now a warrior's grace. She called neighbors, her voice clear. It's over. We won. But her eyes lingered on the fence, its shadow a reminder. Is it really over? She asked. Dad's hand found hers. For now. We'll keep watching. Ray's sketch was complete. Gray Suit's face a trophy. I checked the cameras, nothing. But a new device pinged our Wi-Fi. Brief, then gone. They're still out there, I said. Ray's eyes were steel. And we're still here. The news ran our story. Maple Crest's fight. Our fence, our site. Reporters camped outside. Mom answering with fire. We saved our homes. You can too. Dad's kolu was a prop. Ray's wire cutters a legend. The group chat buzzed. Mrs. Nguyen posted, party at your house. Mr. Patel texted, I'm DJing. The fence stood tall, a monument to our victory. But Mom's hands paused over a flyer, her eyes distant. They'll come back, she said. Dad's voice was steel. And we'll be ready. That night, I found a new email. Burner account. Subject. You're still listed. Inside, a screenshot, our fence, timestamped 5 minutes ago, and one line, we're watching. My heart raced, but I showed Ray. He didn't blink. Let them watch, he said, wire cutters glinting. Mom overheard, her eyes burning. They'll regret it. Dad's cola gleamed, a vow. The fence was our shield, our story, our win. And as the cameras rolled, we weren't just survivors. We were warriors. Sunday was a celebration. The backyard was alive, neighbors dancing, laughing, reclaiming Maple Crest. Mom set out cookies, her nurses touch a gift to the crowd. Dad raised a beer to the fence, his kolu tucked in his belt, gleaming like a crown. Ray stood by the gate, wire cutters in his pocket, his eyes scanning for shadows. I was on my laptop, monitoring Civic Fraud Exposed, net, 200,000 hits, #CivicScam, a global hashtag. The group chat was a party. Mrs. Nguyen posted, best day ever. Mr. Patel texted, spinning Springsteen. The fence glowed, a beacon of victory. Mrs. Nguyen brought spring rolls, her smile brighter than the sun. Mr. Patel DJ'd, his heart condition forgotten in the music. Mom danced with Dad, her laughter a melody, her fear a memory. Ray watched, his wire cutters silent, his Saigon ghosts at peace. I checked the cameras, nothing. But the email from last night lingered, its screenshot burned in my mind. "We're watching," it said. I didn't tell Mom. She was happy, spinning with Dad, her nurses calm a warrior's joy. But I showed Ray. He nodded, wire cutters glinting. They always watch. We always win. The news van stayed, filming the party, Mom's voice clear. We fought for our homes. We won for our neighbors. Dad's Kolu was a star, Ray's wire cutters a myth. Neighbors shared stories, Mrs. Nguyen's mailbox, Mr. Patel's voicemail, their fear now fuel. The fence stood tall, its steel brackets a testament to our fight. But Mom's eyes caught mine, a flicker of doubt. "Is it safe now?" she asked, her voice soft. Dad's arm tightened around her. "Safer than ever." Ray's voice was steel. "And we're stronger." That afternoon, I found another email, same burner account. Subject: List 2. Inside, a new PDF, 30 names, none ours, all strangers. Next targets, it read. My stomach twisted. The machine was gone, but its shadow remained. I showed Ray his wire cutters still. New game, same rules, he said. I uploaded the list to the site, tagged #CivicScam2. Mrs. Nguyen saw it, her spring rolls forgotten. Again, she asked. Mom overheard, her eyes burning. Then we fight again. Dad's cola gleamed, a vow. The fence was our legacy, and we were its guardians. The party ended at dusk, neighbors hugging, promising to watch. Mom cleaned up, her hands steady, her heart full. Dad polished his kolu, the fence glowing behind him. Ray sat on the porch, wire cutters in hand, his eyes on the horizon. The second list was a challenge, but we were ready. And as the stars rose, the fence stood tall, a monument to our fight, our win, our future. We weren't just Maple Crest. We were unbreakable. Monday morning, the house was a sanctuary. Mom was in the kitchen, baking cookies, her nurses touch a promise of peace. Dad was outside, inspecting the fence, his kolu a badge of honor. Ray was on the porch, wire cutters in his pocket, his eyes scanning the street. I was on my laptop, watching Civic Fraud Exposed, net 500,000 hits, #CivicScam movement. The group chat was alive. Mrs. Nguyen posted, checking my mailbox daily. Mr. Patel texted, lawyer says we'll win big. The fence stood tall, a monument to our victory, a shield for our future. Mom was herself again, her laughter bright, her fear a distant shadow. She called neighbors, her voice warm. Keep watching. We're safe because of you. Dad polished the fence's steel, his kolu gleaming like a crown. Ray's sketch of gray suit was framed, a trophy on the wall. I checked the cameras, nothing. But the second list lingered, its 30 names a call to arms. I didn't tell Mom. She was happy, baking for Mrs. Nguyen, her heart full. But I showed Ray. He nodded, wire cutters glinting. They'll keep coming. We'll keep fighting. The news ran our story daily. Maple Crest's triumph, our fence, our sight. Reporters called Mom a hero, Dad a warrior, Ray a legend. I was the tech genius, a title I didn't hate. Neighbors rebuilt trust, sharing letters, bugs, voicemails. Mrs. Nguyen's mailbox was safe, Mr. Patel's health stronger. The fence was more than wood and steel. It was us, stubborn, unyielding, victorious. But Mom's eyes caught mine at dinner, a flicker of wisdom. It's not over, is it? She asked. Dad's hand found hers. Not yet. But we're ready. Ray told a final story that night, his voice soft. 75, after the war. Helped a widow keep her house. Scammers tried to take it, fake deeds, fake cops. We stopped them. She baked me cookies for a year. Mom smiled, her cookies cooling on the counter. Like me, she said. Ray nodded, wire cutters still. Like you. The fence glowed outside, its shadow a legacy. The second list was a threat, but we were a promise. We'd fight for the 30 names, for Maple Crest, for every home. Tuesday, I found a new device on our Wi-Fi, a brief ping, then gone. I didn't panic. I showed Ray. They're testing us, he said, wire cutters glinting. Mom overheard, her eyes burning. Let them. We're the test they'll fail. Dad's cola gleamed, a vow. The fence stood tall, a beacon of our fight, our win, our future. We weren't just a family. We were a fortress, a movement, a story. And as the cameras rolled, the fence remained, a monument to our heart, our strength, our unbreakable spirit. Maple Crest was ours, and no one would take it.